Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. Welcome to IT Skills. I'm your host today, Aiden, and in this video we're going to discuss a very important course, and that is the AZ-900. This is the introduction course, introduction to Azure course. It's a basic course, but it is the foundation before you get started your Azure journey. Now I know the IT world is shaky lately. The world of jobs is shaky lately, but learning about important topics like AZ-900, AZ-104, all those Azure courses is going to help you. We may be not great at economic wise, but we can't stay like this forever. So therefore, you need to be ready. When the things changes for you, it won't change. You won't get opportunity because you waited for the economy to change. You have to change your circumstances, and this is one of the courses that will help you change your circumstances. If you are somebody who, I don't know, it's not for me, well, watch this course. If you understand anything about this course and you like what you see, then I'm assuring you the rest of the other courses will be for you. They may be more difficult, but they'll be for you. And before we get started, I want to give a shout out to my subscribers. Thank you so much for being a loyal subscribers. Also, a special kudos thanks to the members, I Teach members. Those of you who hit the membership button in I Teach, thank you so much. You are very much the star, and we really appreciate you for your kindness and support. Now, let's get started. We're going to get started here, and we're going to go ahead and discuss AZ-900. You can see behind me over here, we have the Learning Paths 1. We're just getting started on this course. We're not getting too deep into it. And at any point, if you have any question, I want you to basically type in the comment. But I would like to do this eventually live. But right now, this is a pre-recorded. But let's get started. Let me see if this is going to let me click through here. It's not letting me advance a slide. I can have to do it manually. That's not right. Let me see. Maybe this one might do it. It's not letting me advance. But anyways, we're going to just have to do it manually. So first things first, learning path. The course we're discussing today, it's the AZ-900, Introduction to Azure. This is basically where we can go ahead and discuss what is Azure, what is all the option you can get here. This is going to be the cloud concept, cloud computing. You ever hear cloud computing? This is what's all about over here. So learning path outline. So we're going to first of all, I'll try to accomplish this the following outline over here. We're going to first talk about what is cloud computing. That's what we need to know before we get too deep into it. What is a shared responsibility model? Shared responsibility. What is cloud model? What is capital versus operational costing? And basically think of a capital expenditure and operational expenditure. It's going to be OpEx, CapEx. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the cloud benefits. What is the benefit of the cloud? And is it any benefit today? Because we know things are changing. Inflation is here. Do we still have the same benefit as the cloud used to tell us? If there's something change, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about what is IaaS, Infrastructure as a Service, PaaS, Platform as a Service, and SaaS, Software as a Service. We're going to talk about that. So let's get started. So first thing we need to talk about is cloud computing. And cloud computing is basically, when you think about it, is just a bunch of computers running somewhere else in the data center, and they bring in that service to you. This is where you have the infrastructure as a service, and it's nothing. It's not like the computers in the sky. It's not like nothing like that. I know that's how many people think about it when you see cloud computing, but it's nothing like that. It's just a bunch of servers running on Microsoft data center or Amazon data center, and you're getting access to it with a touch of a couple clicks. Basically, within 5 minutes, you can set up, spin a VM, do what you need to do, spin a website. That's what it is. It's basically available for you at your will. Obviously, we need to define what is cloud computing, because this is something that people get confused still. We need to also define what is cloud models, including public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. We need to define the appropriate usage for all those cloud models, because if you don't use the appropriate service at the time, you could be incurring a lot of cost, or you could be doing things wrong, or you could leave your organization without redundancy. We also need to describe the consumption-based model. That's very important. And so in cloud world, it's all about consumption. We need to learn consumption because that's what we're going to get built on based on our consumption. We need to compare the difference between cloud pricing model. We need to compare that. So cloud computing, like I was saying here, is basically the delivery of computer services over the internet, bunch of servers running in Microsoft data center, bringing you their service over the internet, enabling you to provision fast VMs, fast web services at will. All you have to do is pay your monthly fee. Pay based on what you use. You use what you pay. You pay what you use basically, and it's basically innovative. It's flexible resources. It's gonna give you the economic scale. So if you want to start with a company with one website, you might need to do one VM running .NET website, whatever. Then you can get that going, or you could start with three different servers, three different VM. Maybe you want a company. You have a company with only 5 employees. You have an Active Directory server. You have two client machines, and then print server, whatever. The point is that you can make this work for you based on how you want it, and that's why it's available to you at any hand. Before, in order to start a new company, you had to set up. You have to buy the hardware. You have to buy everything. Now you don't have to. You are renting this. You're renting this machine, and you can do that at any time you want to. All right, so with the cloud, it's all about compute. What are you using? The compute is most used over here, infrastructure as server. You have networking, you have storage. So all of this, think of this as a model for you to be able to access everything you want on demand. You are accessing a shared pool of configurable computing resources on demand. Microsoft stack those up. They let you go to a nice GUI and they let you pick what you want. You want a D series VM, you want a B series virtual machine, you pick those up, then you spin it up. If you want a server, IaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, whatever you want, you can do that. And you can do that with the servers, networks, storage, application, etc. Now, we need to talk about private cloud. Private cloud is basically the option where you have organization creating their own cloud environment. So this is not available to everybody. It's private. The keyword is private. So this is available to organization. This is their own playground, or their own production cloud. They use for their own proprietary solution. Organizations are responsible for maintaining this. They're responsible for providing the services. They're responsible for doing everything to it. They do maintenance of the hardware. They do maintenance of the software. They do maintenance of everything. Whereas public cloud, which we're going to talk about next, is not. So they do not provide access to user outside organization. As I say, it's private. They want to keep it within their house. I work on an organization. We have a private cloud. I have a home lab that's a private cloud. We have a nice 3-node server that can do almost like 150 virtual machine of servers. That's my private cloud. It's not accessible to anybody else. I do whatever I want. But if it breaks down, I'm responsible for maintaining that and dealing with all the problems that it comes with. So ultimately, think of this as it's a nice option, but when things go wrong, I have to deal with it. I have to maintain it. I have to do all those things with it. Now, public cloud, on the other hand, is where the cloud computing model takes fully effect, in my opinion. Because public cloud, you don't own the hardware. You don't do anything with it. You go ahead, pay your monthly fee. You rely on Microsoft to do everything for you. So basically, this is owned by, the cloud service is owned by the hosting provider, whether it's Azure, Google Cloud, GCP, AWS, Amazon. They own those services. They provide you resources you need for multiple organizations. They also go ahead and give you access to secure connection, typically over the internet, typically like 480 or actually 443. And so basically the public cloud is where a lot of people were hyping the cloud. I can go to, in this case, www.com. That's going to give me Azure Cloud Infrastructure, Azure Cloud. and that will enable me to go ahead spin. You can spin up VM, web servers, websites, storage, and so on. So that's what it is. So that's where this is really the bread and butter of it. So, but in the case of the public cloud, there is benefits and there is pros and cons to it. So we need to talk about it. The pros, each of them have a pro and con. Nothing's ever without faults, even though it looks easy. So now hybrid cloud is where I feel like everything is nice and gelled together. Hybrid cloud combines the benefit of the public cloud and the benefit of the private cloud. They basically combine into one, which allowing application to run in the most appropriate location. You could actually have your infrastructure, your organization hardware, and make it accessible to your user outside of your company. And that makes them get to whatever they want to get to. And that's ultimately where the bread and butter is of this technology is. So the whole purpose of the hybrid cloud is about resource location. Where is your resource located? So you can have a specific resource run on a public cloud, some resource run on a private cloud, which means if it's something that's sensitive, maybe your customers do not want their data to run on anywhere but the public or private cloud, you can run that. And if some customer don't care where their data runs, they want to save money, you can run that on the public. And then you can also save cost and efficiency. So hybrid cloud allowing organization to leverage the cost benefit, and in this case a scale out and available with a private cloud and private cloud model. So they can actually get the same benefit as a private cloud model while using also private cloud at the same time. So they're using both benefits. And on top of that, they allow organization to control where their data lives. They can either have their data on the private cloud or public cloud, and they can also have their own, basically control their cost, their destiny. In this case, if you're using public cloud, it's all about cost. Cost is like something you can control. You're using G series VM, D series VM, VMs cost changes, VMs cost changes. Whereas in your private cloud, you can do whatever series you want to. You can basically incorporate your VM to have crazy specs, and that will be fine. So ultimately, to make the hybrid cloud model successful though, you do need to have a technical specialist, technical skills. They need to have their own IT people. If there's no IT people, this is not going to work because you're dealing with somebody maintaining the hardware component, the network component. You're dealing with some technical overhead over here. And if you don't have that, and you are a small company, you better stick with the public cloud. That's gonna be your best cost saving. That's ultimately what it is. Now, this is all the summary of all the three combination of it. So this is all the summary of all the three combined. So you got your public cloud, no capital expenditure or your capex to scale up. You have application can be provisionally provision. Organization pay for what they use, and they can do it at any time they want from any location. And then you got your hardware, and you have the private cloud. The private cloud is you have to make sure that you purchase the hardware, you maintain them, you have to have technical people. Organization have complete control of everything though. They have control of customer security, resources, where the data live, what VMs they can get. They also are responsible for anything that goes wrong, which is something that people don't want. And that's private cloud. And then, but if you combine both of them together, the hybrid cloud, then that provides the flexibility organization want. They also give the organization where to run their application, whether they want to run on a private cloud or public cloud. And on top of that, organization control the security and compliance or legal requirements. So if you are organization that have huge HIPAA requirement, you can run that data on US soil in a private cloud. If you have a organization that don't care about that, you can run that in your public cloud using the hybrid cloud model. 1 second. All right, so let me see if that works. Hold on. All right, we resumed now. Service is back on. So now we're going to talk about comparing the operational expenditure, OpEx and CapEx. I'm just going to say this, OpEx and CapEx. So comparing the OpEx and CapEx, it's super straightforward, but it's still some companies and some more people just don't not gonna get it. So ultimately, when you are operating a business, you're gonna have something called capital expenditure. Expenditure. When you're operating a business, you're gonna have a capex. That is gonna be your upfront cost, the money that you're spending upfront on a physical infrastructure. Maybe you're buying a building. This could be for, again, your building. Oops, for reason that pen wasn't working. So this could be the money for your building, maybe data center, but you name it. It's something that you have to spend upfront, and it can be used as the same as another thing you're buying. For example, if you don't have a building to operate on, then you got no business. Especially if you're a huge business, unless you are doing one of those shady businesses where you are leasing a business building for a little bit, and then, but most people, they purchase their own building or they get a long lease, and then that way they can operate on them. So that is where your upfront spend comes in. That's your capex. And you also have the cost where basically you spend money on infrastructure. Sometimes you can spend money on computer servers, hardware, cameras to protect that building. And so that is upfront. It's not going anywhere. Then you also can use that to deduct expense from your tax bill. So it's your capex. You can deduct expenses. You can tell IRS, hey, I bought a building this year. Hey, I bought a bunch of servers. They can use that as your capex, and they can give you tax breaks. You also have a high upfront cost. It's very high. So when you're doing the capex, it's very high cost. You're paying a lot of money, maybe a couple million, depending on what your organization size is. But the value of investment reduces over time. So if you bought a building, you're not paying rent anymore. So therefore, you're not gonna be saving money as you have the building appreciates more and you keep making more money. You have more employees working in that building, you make more money. But then other thing for the server, to bring back this to the organization computer world, if you buy servers, the servers are good and from good manufacturer. They're hosting maybe, let's just say 400 VMs, 600 VMs, whatever your infrastructure requirement is. You bought the server maybe for 3 million or 2 million, whatever that may be. I'm just making up numbers right now. Those servers, they're used. If you get 7 years out of that server, then that's a one-time fee you pay until 7 years from now or 5 years from now. And then from that point on, you're basically made enough money. Your business hopefully at that point should be scaled up. You save more money for the next big upfront cost. And so you're investing, it reduces when you buy once, huge high upfront cost, you reduce your investment over time because it works for you. It gives you a ton of investment. So you invest in this, you give an investment return back. Now, OpEx, operational, gonna be different. So OpEx, you spend of services and product as needed. So you get subscription, you get a product, but that is something that's always gonna be lingering. It's not a long time thing. You're buying it and it stays with you. You get billed immediately, but you can deduct this from your tax at the same time, same year, but you don't have this, let's just say ROI, you don't have this long one-time fee you have to think about. You have to think about it just every year. So the good thing is this is good for companies who are startups. You're paying upfront cost, you pay as you go. But if you're somebody who have reputational, you've been existing, you don't have a business, you need to invest something that you don't constantly go back in the market, because the danger to the OpEx compared to CapEx is that you go to a Microsoft services, for example, you want to lease a VM, the G series VM. That cost maybe could double depending on the supply. If wants to rent that to run AI nodes, whatever, then that could increase. But then the following year it could decrease. So they both have risk. But then if you go the same thing, if you go OpEx, you could also buy a server for like $2, and then you realize that I don't have the same requirement anymore. My business needs change. So therefore you need to fire people, and therefore now you don't have a new use for the server. So both have risk. As a business person though, if you are staying long term, think about this. If you're just trying new products, maybe do use this one. But regardless, it's a business cost that you have to think about when you're dealing with the Azure services, and which is why this is there. So the other thing is consumption based. Consumption based is all about What do you use? Consumption model brings many benefits. There'll be no upfront cost for you. You don't have to worry about upfront cost whatsoever. You also have no need to go ahead and purchase or manage costly infrastructure. You don't need to buy, server like 3,000, 4,000. You don't need to buy that. You rent the server that you need. You pay what you use. That's intimate. Basically, all may end up finding out, hey, I rent this server for a year or a couple of months, but now I don't need it anymore. So that expense just stops. Whereas if you purchase a service full price, it doesn't stop. You're paying for that. If you're making monthly payment, you have to pay off the whole thing. The ability to pay for additional reason when they are needed. So in this case, let's just say you bought one VM. You actually decided you need 6 VM. You can scale up. That's why consumption-based model is amazing for companies. And that's why the cloud is amazing. You can also stop paying on things as you don't need to. Like if you decided, hey, I bought a Azure, virtual or Windows 365, whatever. And you decided I don't need that much license anymore. I bought like 60, now I need 2. You can just stop paying 58 of them depending on your agreement, and therefore you don't have that license cost anymore. That's how you can think about it. Now this, like I said, everything comes with a cost. Nothing is ever without risk. So there's always risk. And also on top of that, you're getting billed for what you use. If you didn't use it, you're not getting billed. If your VM is on Azure, one of the things I do is when I provision a VM, I set that VM to shut down after 7 p.m. at night. Because I'm not up working on that at night on that VM, I shut down. If I need it, I can turn it back on anytime. That means the VM will be used, it save me money. It's not running all the time, so it's gonna save me money. And that's one way that Microsoft implemented. And you can also just shut it down completely if you're not using it for the entire month. Therefore, you don't get billed for that. Now, the cloud benefits. We got to talk about the cloud benefit because there's a lot of benefits to the cloud. And due to the contrary beliefs, the cloud is still irrelevant. Most people may say, well, cloud is kind of hyped to die down. It did not. You still have benefit using cloud. I know companies that I help out in, consulting still need the cloud to in order to run, small business especially. So the cloud benefit, basically, we have described the high availability and scalability of the cloud. So basically, high availability is important, and scalability. You can grow with your business. If your company is small, like I said, you can grow with it. It's always available. You don't have to worry about getting it down. Like if you have a good network or engineer or good IT engineers in your team, you don't have to know about that skills. You just have to know how to get that up and running, and that's it. You can benefit of scalability and reliability and predictability. So have an idea. The VM, when you're buying a VM in Azure, it will tell you like, hey, this VM is going to cost you $100 a month or $3,000 a month if you're running a crazy serious VM. So you know this. It means that you are prepared to pay this. Whereas if you go buy a bunch of hardware, let's just say you spend, 6K hardware, and you realize that, oh man, I only need you only need one server, then that means, and you bought 2 servers for 6K, so that means 3,000 is wasted and you cannot get it back. So that's how it is. So really think about it. And then you also have the benefit of security and governance. So Microsoft, state-of-the-art security. You don't have to worry about security. If your server is running on Azure, as long as you don't allow some weird ports, give your password to people in the World Wide Web, you should be fine. And then you also have the benefit of manageability. You can manage it from anywhere. You could be in any country in the world. You can manage it. That's the benefit of it. And then overall, this is the benefit. You have high availability, scalability, predictability, you have governance, you have elasticity, you have reliability, you have security, you have manageability. High availability is always available all the time. Scalability, it can be scaled to whatever you need. Predictability, the cost, have to worry about it. Governance, you can rely on Microsoft to protect you. You have data, you have HIPAA, certify, FERPA, GDPR, you name it. Elasticity, so you stay becoming the cloud that you want. You can make it to whatever you want. Reliability is always reliable. Security, you secure by Microsoft, backed by Microsoft. You can manage it from anywhere. Now, it's time to segue. We're going to talk about cloud service type. And this is where I would say, if you are tired, this is where you can go ahead, pause the video, take a break, because we're going to need to retain this information. We don't want it to get this information lost. So if you are getting exhausted, I know it's a long video. It's time to go ahead and actually get yourself, come back. But let's go ahead. We're going to continue here because this is a video. We're going to continue. It's cloud service types. What are they? So we have infrastructure as a service, IaaS, platform as a service, PaaS, software as a service, SaaS. And then we need to describe the service vulnerability area, identify the use case for each cloud services. When we're going to use IaaS, when we're going to use PaaS, when we're going to use SaaS. So in the infrastructure as a service, this is, as it says, infrastructure. This is when you want to rent servers, virtual machines. You wanted to build an IT infrastructure from the ground up. This is when you use IaaS. It's the most basic computing service category. You get billed as you get to use the services. You're renting the service. Think of this as renting services. And then you can rent from anything from virtual machine. You can rent anything from, network, storage, operating system, cloud providers, you name it. You can do this from GCP, Google Cloud Provider, Amazon, AWS, Azure, you name it. But we're focusing on Azure here. This is our bread and butter, Azure. Oops, let's go back here. Yeah, we're focusing on bread and butter, Microsoft Azure. So this is our bread and butter. We stay with Azure because Azure is the one that we're here for. So in Azure portal, you go there, you click on virtual machine, you go ahead and try the machines they have available. Be careful. Always look at the machine, how much they cost. This is the mistake that a lot of people make. They're new to it, they're excited, they want to go ahead and deploy a machine. They choose machine that cost, instead of the machine that cost $770 a month, you may choose a machine that cost, let's just say, $250 a month. Now, what is wrong with that? Well, some people may not have $250, and that's the fact. Some people their budget may be $70 to learn about this technology and not waste money. So you got to be careful. Look at the SKU. Always look at the SKU and look at the detail cost that you get billed for this. Otherwise, you're going to be in a real shock surprise. So that's very important. Then you got the next one we're going to do is going to be platform as a service, PaaS. This is where you think of this as a basic, all right, now we're going to talk about platform as a service. Platform as a service, as it says here, it's all about providing a building environment for testing and developing coding, deploying websites, software, you name it. So this is, like I said, platform. It will help developer build application quickly, and it will also help them test without incurring crazy cost or having the underlying infrastructure. So when you're a developer, let's face it, you don't have time to mess with the server hardware. You worry about coding. That's where your specialty is at. Platform as a service is all about giving you as a developer the edge. You can go ahead and develop on the latest language you want without having to deal with the hardware, servers, networking to make that work for you. And that's all flexible because you don't have to pay the huge upfront cost. You pay what you use and you scale up to it. And that's where, the world changed. We're no longer in the mercy of having to have the best of the best to learn. You can learn from the budget of $600, $100, $200, whatever you have. As long as you have a passion for it, cloud services out there to help you get your passion and, help you develop. Now, we know that, most people say, I'd rather develop on my own home. Well, you can too. That option is never get away from you. You just need to know that it costs more money to do that when you don't got nothing to go with. But when you got more, maybe you'd start with Azure, learn your way, get a nice job. Then after that, you'll basically, get your nice cool gear and have your own private cloud type of solution where you can develop as you will. But that's just an option. So let's continue. The next thing is, this is the one that's famous because everybody uses this. This is software as a service. This is where you have your Microsoft Office 365 is running in there. You got your Skype, you have your Microsoft Dynamics CRM, you got your Teams. This is the software as a service, basically. You don't have to worry about paying anything for the infrastructure. You just have to get the licenses right from Microsoft. If you want maybe a Microsoft 365 solution, you get the Microsoft 365 for Business. You might get that. That gives you a license for up to 300 users, and you may pay like $15 a month per month. That gives you access to your latest Office, Pro Plus, Office, online, Teams, you got your OneDrive, you got SharePoint. You can use all those services as they were in your own, company, local company. They will work always fast. They have 99.9% of SLA, meaning they are supposed to work. Microsoft have backing of that. They have their word. It's in their best interest to keep that working, and it makes life easier. And you don't have to worry about spending, a whole time. The days of having your own Exchange server on-prem to do email relay is done. Having none is unacceptable. If you're a company, you should not have been Gmail. There's no way you should be using Gmail. Even if you're a person who is just an individual doing a lot of business services, you got to have an email that shows your domain. You got to have a professional email. That's something that I help a lot of companies do. And didn't mean to do a self-advertising, but you should not be. I see so many people that do great work. They have good business model, but they give you an email. Their email ends with @gmail.com. That's when I lose them. I lose faith. Like, are you sure you know what you're doing? Why are you using Gmail? Why are you using Yahoo? Got to get your own professional email. Use Microsoft 365. Install all your documents there. Plan your through Teams. Use the greatest. This is what software service is all about. So now we're going to talk about shared responsibility model. Everything comes down to this. So what does this mean? This is a nice slide that tells you exactly who's responsible for what. So if you look at it here, information and data on SaaS on-prem, that's also scaled back. When you see all blue, information and data, that means the customer is responsible for it. If you see all blue, look at this. You see all blue, customer. If you see, that's Microsoft. If you see light blue and dark blue, that's both of us, shared model. So the first one, customer. The data and information is from a customer. Any environment, whether it's on-prem, SaaS, IaaS, PaaS, it's the customer responsibility. Then if you look at the device and mobile PCs, that's a customer as well. Microsoft no device you're going to use, or mobile device you're going to use, or PC you're going to use. And then if you look at account identities, that's your responsibility. You bring your own identities. Who you wanted to give access to the system. Microsoft don't control that. So that's your responsibility. On all options, all the services, on-prem, IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. Then if you look at the directory and identity and directory infrastructure, on SaaS, that's a shared responsibility. You may have AD Connect or Microsoft Interact Connect on your on-prem to sync users, and Microsoft do the rest. On a PaaS, Microsoft, that's like basically also some, and then you do some as well as a developer. On an IaaS infrastructure, all of it's up to you. You're doing infrastructure, you're an IT infrastructure engineer, you do all of it. On an on-prem, you do all of it. Don't touch Microsoft. Now, on an application, Microsoft on SaaS is responsible 100%. They're not going to tell you to maintain their application on SaaS. No chance. On a PaaS, platform as a service, you may have to do some because you're developing an application and you're integrating with maybe Microsoft SSO. You may have some support within each other. But on-prem, again, like IaaS and on-prem, your responsibility. Network control, same thing. Microsoft is responsible for everything in their SaaS. And on their PaaS, you get help from it. On-prem and IaaS, no help. Operating system, SaaS, their responsibility. PaaS, their responsibility. IaaS, your responsibility. PaaS and on-prem, your responsibility. On the physical host, Microsoft responsibility. On SaaS, PaaS, Microsoft responsibility. On-prem, your responsibility to host the physical host. So on-prem, you get all the responsibility. Network, physical network, Microsoft responsible for all the three options, except on-prem. Physical data center, Microsoft responsible for all the three options except one. So therefore, Microsoft, if you use their services, you're not touching anything. You're not touching network. You're not touching physical center. You're not touching hardware. You're not touching anything. That's ultimately what it is. So responsibility, you have to understand. When it comes to shared responsibility model, your most focus is going to be information and data, devices, account identities, and identity and directory infrastructure. And for the most part, they got you covered. Now, if you're looking at the cloud service consumption model, You have IaaS, infrastructure as a service, the most flexible cloud service. That's what Microsoft says. Why? It's because you can manage and you can manage your application, so you can do whatever you want to that. You can spin VM, you can do whatever you want. And then PaaS, you focus on application development. Microsoft do the rest. So Microsoft don't want you to mess with the infrastructure. They just want you to focus on application development. And then as far as like management by the cloud service provider, yes, it's a pay-as-you-go pricing model. So whatever you pay, whatever you use, and so forth. User pay for the software they use on their subscription model. So if you're using Teams Premium, you pay for that. If you're using Copilot licenses, you pay for that on your licenses, and that's so forth. So this is a review now. It's time for us to review. We did a lot. We talked about a lot. Let's review what we learned. Today in this module, we talked about module learning path 1. We talked about Microsoft shared responsibility model. We talked about public cloud. We talked about private cloud. We talked about hybrid cloud. We also talked about the benefit of using cloud computing, and we also talked about cloud service types. That's what we talked about. And that is where I will leave you guys with it. If you like this type of video, like, subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a member so we can make videos like you. You can see we invested a lot into our studio in the recent week actually, and we're gonna hopefully that you're enjoying this. And if you are a subscriber, thank you so much for supporting us. If you're a member, thank you so much for supporting us. If you're not, please consider becoming a subscriber. I know becoming a member. Until the next module, I let you guys go. Peace.